Okay friends, once again welcome to Login Science. In this video we are going to solve a question which is dealing with hyperbola grade 12 and parabola grade 12. Okay, you can use this question to practice. Okay, so this is the question. You are given a parabola and a hyperbola. Okay, let's see the information. Sketched the graphs of f of x is equal to x plus p, right, in bracket, squared plus q, and g of x is equal to this, right? A over x plus b plus c. Okay, so the point A with this coordinate 2.5, right? And 0. Okay, you have 2.5 and 0. This is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. This is a point on the graph of f, right? Okay, you have the point P, which is the turning point of f. Okay, and the asymptote of the graph of G are represented by the dotted lines. Okay, and the graph of G passes through the origin. Okay, so now question 1, determine the equation of G. So you need to determine the equation of this graph, which is a hyperbola. Question 2, determine the coordinate of P, the turning point of F. You need to determine the coordinate of that point, which is P, the turning point of F. This is the graph of F. And question 3, write down the equation of the asymptote of G of what? G of x minus 1. Okay, we are going to see that. Question 4, write down the equation of H if H is the image of F reflected about the x-axis. So you have 4 questions to solve. Okay, let's get started on the next slide. Okay, question 1. The question is determine the equation of G. Okay, you are given G of x is equal to A over x plus b plus c, like this. Okay, you have to determine the equation of G. G of x is equal to this. So you have to determine the values of A, B, and C. Okay, let's get the graphs that you are given. You are given these graphs. Okay, so we are going to solve for the values of A, B, and C. Okay, so that we can get the equation of G. Okay, so you can see from the graphs, you have this vertical asymptote. The vertical asymptote of this hyperbola, this graph of G, it got a vertical asymptote, and the vertical asymptote is at x is equal to 1. There's 1, right? There's 2, you have 0 there. This is 1. The vertical asymptote is at x is equal to 1. Because you have the vertical asymptote at x is equal to 1, you know that the value of b is going to be the same value but opposite signs. Since you have a positive 1, you are going to have a negative 1. Okay, it could have been b, but in this case they are using b. You solve the same way. The letters means nothing. Okay, now you have the value of b. There is also an horizontal asymptote. This horizontal asymptote for this hyperbola, it is at y is equal to 2. Okay, you can see this is 0, 1, 2. So there is a horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 2. And from this, you know that the value of c is going to be equal to 2. Okay, so the value of c, it could have been q. In this case, they are using c. Now you have the values of b and c. So we can replace b and c in the equation. G of x is equal to this. After you substitute your b, there's b, and c, there's c. Okay, we need to get what? The value of a. Okay, so we are going to use a point on the graph of G to solve for a. So when you read the information, you are told that G passes through the origin. Okay, so it passes through the origin. You have the following coordinate because it passes through the origin. So you have this point which is on the graph of G. There it is. You can use this point to solve for a. Okay, so this is your x coordinate and this is your y coordinate. So G of x is y and the value of y is 0. So you have 0 is equal to, you have a over x, x is 0, minus 1, plus 2 there. Okay, so you take this 2 to the left, it's negative 2 is equal to a over, this is negative 1, a over negative 1, it's negative a. Okay, and so the value of a is equal to 2 when you multiply by negative 1 throughout. A is equal to 2. Now you can substitute a there. So g of x is equal to this. After you substitute a there, okay, so this is the equation of g. Okay, you have solved for question 1. Now question 2, let me draw a line here. Okay, question 2, the question is determine the coordinate of point P, which is the turning point of F. You need to determine the coordinate of that point P. Okay, f of x is given like this when you read the information. Okay, so from this, you know that P is the turning point, right? And the coordinates are P and Q. This is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. Okay, if you don't understand this, please go check my video part 2 of 6 on parabola grade 12. You are going to understand this. This is what? This is the vertex form. So this is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. Okay, so the x coordinate of this point, you can see it is 1, and the y coordinate, you don't know what it is. It is in between negative 2 and negative 3. You don't know what it is, but you know what the x coordinate is. Okay, so P, this P is the turning point of F. This uppercase P means the point P, and this one is the x coordinate of the point P. You shouldn't be confused with P and P there. This P means that point, the turning point, and this P means that P, which is the x coordinate of the point P. So from this point, you know that P, which is the x coordinate, this P is equal to 1. You can see it's 1 there. You don't know what the y coordinate is. The y coordinate is actually Q. You don't know what it is. So you can use this and plug it in there. Okay, let me close this. I can close it for now. Okay, so f of x is equal to, you have x. When you substitute P, remember, you change the sign from a positive one to a negative one. Always do that. When you take it back inside the bracket, change the sign. When you take it out, change the sign. So you have a round bracket, square, plus Q. Okay, so if you can get Q, you have solved for the question. The question is asking for the coordinate of this point P. How can we get the value of Q? You can see from the graphs or from the parabola, you are given a point, this point, which is on the parabola. You can use this point to solve for Q. So you have the point A with this coordinate. A is a point on the graph of F. Use it to solve for Q. So this is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. F of x is y and y is equal to 0. It is equal to, you have that bracket, you have x. X is 5 over 2 minus 1. You close the bracket, square plus Q. Okay, so you can carry on. You have 0 is equal to, this is 2.5, right? 5 over 2 is 2.5 minus 1. You have 1.5. 1.5 is the same as 3 over 2. Okay, let me say that again. This is 2.5. 2.5 minus 1 is 1.5. 1.5 is the same as 3 over 2. 3 over 2 squared is 9 over 4. I hope you understand that. If you don't understand, you can use your calculator, but you shouldn't get used to a calculator. Please try to stay away from the calculator. Sometimes you need to solve these problems without using a calculator. Okay, so you have this plus Q. Okay, and so what is Q equal to? When you take this to the left, Q is equal to negative 9 over 4. Okay, now you have the value of Q and you also have the value of P. So the coordinate of the turning point, which is P, are these. Okay, you have the x coordinate and you have the y coordinate. This is your P and this is your Q. Okay, you have solved for question 2. Let's move on to question 3. Okay, question 3, you are given g of x is equal to this. Now you have to determine the equation of asymptote, the equation of the asymptote of what? Of g of what? X minus 1. Determine the equation of the asymptote of g of x minus 1. Let's first get the equation of g of x minus 1. Okay, so to get g of x minus 1, you take x minus 1, you substitute where you have x. G of x is this. G of x minus 1, you substitute x minus 1 there. So g of x minus 1 is equal to, you have 2 over, you substitute this x with x minus 1, like this. And then you have minus 1. Don't forget it. And remember, you have plus 2 there. Okay, and you carry on. G of x minus 1 is equal to, you have 2 over, this is x minus 1 minus 1, and this is minus 2, right? X minus 2. You have plus 2 there. You can see this is still what? An equation of a hyperbola. Okay, to get the vertical asymptote, you take what you have there. As always, take what you have there, x minus 2. You equate it to 0 and you solve for x. Okay, so negative 2 to the right, x is equal to 2. Okay, so this is the vertical asymptote. The horizontal asymptote is equal to this, y is equal to what you have there, 2. Okay, as simple as that. So this is the horizontal asymptote. Okay, we have solved for question 3. Now question 4. Question 4 was write down the equation of h if h is the image of f reflected about the x-axis. So you have f of x. Let me say question 4, f of x is equal to this. Okay, and you find that f of x is equal to this after you have solved for p and q. Remember from the previous question. So this is f of x. Now the question is to find h of x. H of x is what? H of x is the image of f reflected about the x-axis. So h of x is equal to reflect this about the x-axis, you multiply it by -1. Okay, like this. This is how you reflect this about the x-axis. You multiply it by -1. So this is equal to h of x. This is how you reflect an equation about the x-axis. You multiply it by -1. Okay, and so this is equal to, this is f of x. Okay, so remember you multiply it by -1. So you close everything like this. Let me use square bracket. Remember you multiply it by -1. There's -1. There is an invisible one there. So you multiply it by -1. This is how you do it when you reflect an equation or a function or a graph about the x-axis. You multiply it by -1. Okay, and so h of x is equal to, you have negative times this. It's negative. You have this, and then this becomes plus 9/4. Okay, so you have solved for the question. I hope this question is going to help you to understand how to solve questions on hyperbola and parabola grade 12. Okay, if you find value in this video, please don't forget to show that with your likes. Comment in the comment section. Remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell so that you can be alerted whenever a new video is posted. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.